Welcome everybody to the special edition show video version. And this is my guest, Valene Peratrovich. I'm going to say it wrong. Say it. Say your last name.
Peratrovich.
I have it all like drawn out on here, and as soon as I went to say it, I tripped on it. So, all right, Valene and I have known each other for a couple of years now. Gosh, it's probably 3 years.
3 or 4 years, I think.
Yeah. So we've been through a lot of different things together, and I just brought her on because she has a beautiful story to tell about her life and her journey to being a light medium. Did I get that right? And being a mom and being everything that she is. So I'm just going to kind of throw it over to you, and if I have questions, I'm just going to interrupt the heck out of you and ask them. Oh, we're going to do the sidebar that I do have a giant puppy running around, my 90-pound German Shepherd puppy, who thinks he wants to be part of the show. So that may happen, and we're just all going to pretend it doesn't. Okay? Okay. So Valene, talk to us about what's going on.
Awesome.
Tell me your story.
So I really feel like part of my platform, what I'm here to do, and my purpose is bringing validation to individuals that seek me out or that spirit happens to guide me towards. And I kind of, what I say, because also in my website, I put a thing out there that I do everything from angels to star seeds to mediumship and crystals. Like, it's just wherever spirit guides you, right? But so many people talk about how when they were younger, they saw spirit, they experienced this, and they always had a knowing or connection. Beings would visit them. Not really. I would see things and they were scary, like scary as heck. So I shut it all down, because I remember one time my mom and I, we were sleeping, and I looked over at my mom, and she was covered in black tarantulas. I lived in Alaska. We don't have tarantulas, but they were scary, and it didn't feel right. And it felt, I don't know, it just felt like something that I couldn't actually touch. I knew it was spiritual, or it was something not of this world. So I bolted and I took off and went into my room.
And then your mom to fend for herself under black tarantulas.
Exactly.
Just a note for when mom's watching the video.
Yeah, a 4-year-old. I was for my thing. I was 4, and I really didn't know
your defense.
But something kind of I should say is my mom was in a heavily abusive relationship, like physically, mentally, emotionally abusive relationship. And that's how that energy manifested on her through my vision, my spiritual sight. And so I took off, and then all of a sudden I see these fluorescent animals coming all around me. And that freaked me out. So ever since then, I shut it all down. And then I had a violent awakening. And I say violent because it literally brought me to my knees, is when it was in 2010. A lot of people, like there was a certain soul group, I think collectively, that were all going through this huge awakening in 2010, getting ready for whatever was to come. And I ended up, my husband, who was a Navy SEAL at the time, didn't make it into his next elite training. And it was devastating, huge. That was like so hard for him. And then I ended up having a miscarriage that same year. And I found out the day before we were getting stationed in our new location. And it was just, it wasn't to punish. It was literally because we weren't hearing the whispers of spirit. We weren't hearing what they were saying before. Yeah. So that's what it took. Because before like many of us, I was reading the book, The Secret, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I was able to manifest some really cool things. Then I moved to Hawaii. This was when I was living in Oregon. And then I moved to Hawaii, and then I forgot it all. Became this party girl, and my husband was stationed. He was stationed in Hawaii, but he was never home. I was home all by myself. So I kind of forgot a lot of myself. Everything that got me to everything I wanted that I've been praying for And then I just said, woo, I'm going to just work, party.
In hindsight, though, can you look at that and see where it might have been part of a bigger purpose to have yourself get lost in that for a little bit?
Yes, everything. I love that you asked that because, Spirit has told me very clearly that this is part of the human experience.
Yeah.
The scenic route is often the one that's taken. And then there's the expressway, but usually the scenic route holds all the treasures.
Right.
It really was, that for me. Because something funny that happened too, I was sleeping, woke up in the morning. My husband was gone somewhere, somewhere in the mainland, or he might have been deployed. I can't remember, but I was the only one in the house. And I wake up and I hear this voice, audible voice, where I shot up out of bed and I looked around and said, who said that?
Yeah, that might be a little disturbing.
Yeah. And they said, you exist on 7 different levels.
Nice.
Then what? Like, who is that? And what does that even mean? But it wasn't for the Val then. It was for the Val to come. And
do you know what it means now?
Yeah, absolutely. Shock.
Okay, do you want to come back to that, or do we want to?
Well, for me, it was learning about my chakra system. I didn't know what chakras were, and I was always ill when I was in Hawaii. I would always have problems with like bladder infections, kidney infections, and then eventually, what led to my huge awakening was a miscarriage. They were all in the sacral chakra. I had a lot of clearing to do, and I feel spirit when I say that. So if you guys hear me say, woo, I feel spirit.
Nothing more than Hawaiian energy to help you do that.
The whole island is a big crystal, you guys. You got to have your stuff together when you go there.
Yes.
Or it will bring it to whatever you need to deal with, and that's what it did for me, exactly what it did for me.
Yeah. Very powerful.
So just moving forward with that. So then I had the kind of big awakening was when I had the miscarriage, because I didn't think anything could go wrong. It was my first pregnancy, my first baby. All the plans were happening in my head.
Mm-hmm.
So sick. And then I found out and I just cried. It was so dark. It was one of the darkest moments. And nothing helped. I tried working out. I tried doing everything and nothing was helping. So it led me to, I really want to talk to a medium. I want to know my baby's okay. Because once you see your baby's heartbeat, it changes you. And I saw the baby's heartbeat. And I just wanted to know it didn't experience pain, that it was okay, and that my baby knew that I loved them. And so it led me to a medium, Susan Sanderford. She was amazing. I mean, everything she told me, I literally felt like I wasn't even walking on earth after that reading.
Wow.
It changed my life. And it was like all that, because seriously, emotions have a literal density to them, and you carry them in your energy and your body. It's intense, and all of it was alleviated when I received validations that I needed to know and hear. And a secret that I held with me a long time is I had a lot of self-hate for myself. Oh. I hated myself I felt like I caused a miscarriage. I hated myself for not being able to fit into the military community because I didn't share a lot of their perspectives and beliefs.
Yeah.
I didn't believe in the war. I wanted my husband to be serving as a warrior and protecting, but there was a part of my spirit that never believed in why we were there. And other wives don't want to hear that. You have to believe in something and believe that they're over there risking their lives for a reason. So who am I to take that away? I understand why they pushed me away.
Yeah.
But it was very hard because you're not by your family anyway. So it was a very lonely feeling. So bringing that back around, in that reading, I found out the reason why it was so hard is because I wasn't of the human experience from my past, I guess you could say. Like I was coming here answering a call, which totally resonated because when I was little, I always felt like I was here on a mission, and I always had a very clear belief that I would always be protected. And I don't know why. And these voices would always talk to me. They were audible voices, like that one that said, you exist on 7 different levels. I'm tying my shoe, getting ready to go to school. And then I hear, don't lie. I'm like, who said that? I was by myself, and then I was like, okay. And I tie my shoe and go to school. It was just little things where they would always talk to me and tell me these things. So it just really resonated what she told me, is that I always had a mission, and I'm here to do something. And even though I didn't know what it was at the time. So that was kind of the 2x4 moment that we all have that gets us on our spiritual path. And then I had all these crazy experiences. It opened the floodgates, literal spiritual floodgates. And I just wanted validations of what was happening. So I would feel things, and spirit would be like, you need to do this. So I'm like, okay. I called into Doreen Virtue's show. I don't know why. I didn't even really know who she was. So I felt a little weird calling in because I didn't know a lot about her. But I'm like, I just felt like I needed to call. So I'm like, can I ask about my career? Can I ask about our finances? And they were like, Doreen doesn't take those kind of calls. I'm like, okay. I was like, okay, what do I ask then? And then all of a sudden, this literal pressure came down on top of my head and shoulders where I sunk in my chair, and I didn't know what it was. And then the thought popped in my head, you need to ask about the crystal therapy dream. And I was like, what?
I'm wrestling a puppy. So when you guys start watching this and you're seeing me over here, he's like, that's him chewing on a bone that you hear. I'm just going to let it happen, and he'll settle down. So, okay. Sorry about that. So the crystal. So
they told me there was a literal change in pressure, and it was a very heavy pressure that was pushing on top of my head and my shoulders. And the image popped in my head of the crystal therapy dream. So just a little background about me. I studied the physical sciences. Chemistry was my main focus. And I never believed in crystal therapy. I never believed in any of this stuff, to be honest. Angels, they were a nice thought, but they weren't a part of my belief system at that time. So it was, I asked her about it, and because I had a dream, very, very real dream, where I was laying down on a table, looking through my perspective, my eyes, and these beings were around me I'm holding one of my crystals, one of my babies here. This is a Faden quartz. Anyways, so I'm holding crystals, and they are placing them on points of my body. I didn't even know what the chakra system was, but now that I know, and I learned, they were lining them up accordingly. And then there was this one big piece of rock that was looked like a Flintstone wheel, had a hole in the center, it looked like a stone. And they showed it, and they bring it right up to my eyes, and then they would place it wherever they needed to. And that one I think they put by my heart. And it was so real. And so I asked about it, and then she started talking about Atlantis, and she was saying I was aligned with the angelic realm and all these other things. And then it was intense. It was like, okay, that explains why I always see these lights everywhere. Like when I'm talking to people, I'll see lights flash in and flash out. Some people light up like Las Vegas Strip. So yeah. And then I realized, after all these validations, everything that's happening is that my children who were waiting to come through me were waiting for me to up my vibration, because they couldn't handle being in the density that I was holding, especially the emotion. So I had to clear it all out. I had to up my vibration. I'm talking meditation, anything that I could get my hands on, books, all that stuff. And then eventually I got pregnant 1.5 years later. And what I found out was that was my son trying to come through the first time, and him saying, no, she's not ready.
Not ready.
I'll be back.
So the same soul came back.
Same soul came back.
Mm-hmm.
So that happened. And then I have 2 boys. The next son, I had a miscarriage again. And
I'm going to mute myself so you don't have to hear him chewing on his phone.
Oh, no, that's okay. So the same thing happened again, and I had a miscarriage with my, the second time. And when as moms, sometimes we kind of stuff our emotions down and we don't want our kids or our family to see that we're having a hard time. So I waited till everybody went to sleep, and then I started crying for my baby again. And then I heard.
I kind of think that's a Capricorn thing.
I could see that.
To look vulnerable.
I could see that.
Yeah.
And I heard this little child's voice. It wasn't like the other voice that I heard that sounded more like an older, wiser voice. This one sounded like an open-hearted, loving child's voice. And it said, "Don't cry, Mommy, I'll be back." And then I was like, and then it's just hearing that took away so much of the grief, and it made it so much easier to move through that. So yeah, but it was just my boys. And then with that, having children, holy cow, it's hard right now in this space. It is a challenge at times, and I'm being honest.
Yeah. Holding
a space for spiritually open children, because they are in thank you and spirit. So when I say thank you, I feel spirit, and I'm like, let's highlight this. Whoever's watching this and this resonates with, if you're a caretaker, a teacher, or a parent, grandparent of a child, holding a space for them, they're in a place that is not made for children like them. If anything, it's made to break children like them.
I just had a guest on my radio show 2 weeks ago where we were talking about the school system stealing their light, or taking their light, dimming their light, whatever you want to call it.
Yes. Yeah. And like John Trudeau, who's an elder who passed, he says that don't let them steal your souls, because we have people here who want, and I don't mean this in a conspiracy way to bring fear. It's an awareness and an understanding that there is the light and there is a dark, and just turning a blind eye to the dark will not always serve, because you have to know what you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. That's a big part of my path in 2017. I'll definitely say that was a theme, because I was very Pollyanna. I worked with angels, I did mediumship, and I looked at the light. I'm not going to acknowledge the shadows. And then some really heavy, dark stuff came up that it was like I had to take that journey as a woman, like they would say, like a medicine woman or a shaman, in seeing and acknowledging the dark, the shadows, not running from them like I ran from the tarantulas, seeing them and realizing the power that I have to call in spirit, and with my own power to find out who they are, what they need, and then if they need to be sent to the light, and if they won't go, to move them out of my space. And I could go into so many stories about all that.
Have you ever had any of them not go?
Yeah, I had one it was in August. August was a very intense month for me. Because not only do I work with angels, I also work with ET. Mm-hmm. And I had something attached to my throat, and it was intense. It was literally like something was choking me. And it was different because when I'm very empathic, so when I start talking to people, I start feeling their energy and what they're feeling in my body. So that's normal. This didn't go away. Once I disconnected from everybody, this energy stayed. So I knew it was attached. And I was going to sleep one night, and I got my baby to bed, and I heard, "I hate you." I'm like, but the weird thing was that's the earth me, like, what? And then the spiritual was very steady, very calm. And it said, "But I love me, and I love you, and we don't have to do this." And when I did that, it was very releasing, and it kind of, in a sense, transmuted anything that it was trying to create. But it was my teacher. Anything that they say of lower energies, and like people talk about demons or whatever, I mean, there's so many different terms for lower energy. It's just a teacher. For me, that's what I learned in my path. It is one of the biggest teachers in my life. And that taught me how to hold a space of love and not go into fear. Because when I let my spirit take over, it was steady, it was calm, and it was asserted in love. And I was like, oh, okay, well, yeah.
Well, the world is our classroom,
Yeah.
and you know, everything around us is our mirror, our teacher, our lesson. So,
Yeah.
so when we're doing this work, we're still in the classroom. So that makes complete sense that
Absolutely.
anything coming in is there to teach and evolve.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. And then that August too, um, I had some type of egg-shaped looking drone thing come into my room. And that was hard because, I mean, it's sometimes I find it's easier to talk about angels, spirit, departed loved ones than it is to talk about ET stuff. Because
Oh, then you need to be on my show more.
Okay, awesome.
That's just been amazing how much of that goes on here. So yeah,
Yes,
I get a lot of it.
awesome. So, and I thank you for that because it takes like I was able to come out of the spiritual closet, but the ET part I always come. Oh, get back in there. We're not going to talk about that.
My opinion on that, you know, because our government, whatever society doesn't want to know about ETs. They just, you know, they're closing the doors to that, or try to make us think that if there are any, that they're out to get us or whatever it is, you know. And
that whole sci-fi spin that they've put on it is a heavy program.
Yeah, and it's not that they're. I mean, look at humans. There's really great humans and there's really dark humans. You're going to get that with anything.
And we trust ourselves to discern.
Right.
And it's no different with ETs.
Yeah, but what I'm finding is, as I'm learning about how there's different dimensions and different vibrations and that type of thing, and I might sound a little crazy in this moment, but angels are ETs from another vibration. They're not the biblical version of what we think they are, but still just as amazing. And it's like, if we could only be told the truth, it wouldn't take away from anything that the Bible's doing. It wouldn't take away from any of the meaning behind it, the live a good life, be kind. It doesn't take anything away from anything. In my mind, what it does is enhances it.
Exactly.
And because I finally felt like I was learning the truth. And I think I was a lot like you. And I remember being in church when I was little, growing up Catholic, and listening to the story that the priest was telling in the sermon, and thinking, that's not real. That couldn't have happened. And I just always felt like that when I would hear stories. And I'm like, no, that's not real. And, you know, Adam and Eve would be a good example of that. You know, here comes this man and then he makes a woman out of his likeness and blah, blah, blah. Well, then when you hear the extraterrestrial or non-terrestrial or whatever they go by version of that, where, you know, man is made in the creator's likeness. And it's like, okay, well, then you hear of how all these different high vibrational beings were trying to create a hybrid, which is a human. And they were taking DNA from all these different sources to create it. Well, there's the whole rib story, taking the rib from Adam to create Eve. And it's like, oh, now that makes sense, you know, and so on and so on. There's so many stories out there that make way more sense.
Well, they say that, like, the Bible is a bunch of allegories.
Right.
Like, and so that totally makes sense. And they say that's how Jesus spoke. And often, do you find that, Tracie, when you're giving readings, Spirit will say the message, but they always put it in some type of analogy for the person to apply it in their own life to integrate.
Yeah.
You just say, you're being a light. It's like, okay.
What does that mean?
Some people will take it in, but some people you have to kind of say, wait, you are a spiritual being having a human experience, not the other way around. Then they're like, oh, it sinks in more, you know? So and in what you were talking about with the angels and bringing that up, thank you, because that's exactly the experience I had. I was literally walking from my kitchen into my bedroom, and then all of a sudden I heard and I saw, they showed me, they said, angels are us and we are angels. And they were talking about ETs. And they said they just confuse us with having wings. It's our light. It's how we illuminate. And then Spirit made it very clear that labels are very good and they serve a high purpose. as you're entering into understanding energy. And it's kind of the gateway. So labels serve like angels. That opens you up, you know what it is. And then it helps you go further down the path to where it's not about the label anymore. It's about the energy, the energetic signature, what you feel.
Right.
So you know what it's like to see and feel and experience an angel, but labeling an angel is kind of what helps open the human mind up to the other dimensions, as you were talking.
Yeah.
So same thing with like kids, crystal children, indigos, whatever. It's all another way to help kind of get the human consciousness, corral it into that path, and then so it can open up and go to a way more expansive place than what our children really are. Yeah. The ones that are coming in now.
The ones that are coming in now are, yeah, well, you know, you've got a couple of them in your room, in your house. But yeah, very highly psychic. I have a story about my youngest one that, you know, as it evolves, I'm very curious about what he becomes when he grows up, because I was told when I would get pregnant with him, I got pregnant with him when I was told I would. Wow. And, you know, when he was born, we would call him Houdini, because he would, you know, as a toddler, he would disappear. He would move across the room, you know, and so I am curious about where.
To me, that's very real. I mean, these kids can do things. Like when my son gets really mad, he can move things.
Yeah.
And somebody said that to me and I kind of forgot about it. And then I was like, whatever. And then
whatever.
He comes running down the stairs. He's like, the doll just moved on its own. And I was like, it's his, that's how powerful.
You're moving it.
Yeah, exactly. Like these kids, they're just so gifted. And I mean, in our past, we can go back and look through so many people who are showing us the human potential and what we're capable of.
Yeah.
And it just humbles me, because it's just, we are moving in such an amazing direction and energy, even though sometimes it feels like things are really, really heavy, which they, for me, personally speaking, they are. But as you say, everything's kind of a mirror. And it's all about, anytime I come back to my truth and honoring it, like it's hard to raise a child right now, because everybody, like they see my son, I mean, children have to be respected now more than ever. Otherwise they will force it. If you do not respect, like my son, somebody just picked him up without asking his permission. My son had a meltdown for an hour because you have to ask, even if they're a toddler, like you have to ask them for permission. Their body is their own and they do not understand when you're not respecting them. That's something my mom taught me. Yeah. And in that moment, when I saw my son get picked up by a family member and watch him melt down, he felt everything in her energy field. And it was painful for him because he did not want that experience. He did not want to feel it. And he's already having a hard enough time trying to feel out his own body because he's not used to this body either. Like I literally had to have a talk with my oldest and said, okay, I know.
I'm gonna segue there for a second, then we can go back.
Please.
You just said he's not used to his body, and earlier you mentioned star seeds, and I wrote that down so that I didn't forget to go back to it. Let's talk about what a star seed is and why children are not comfortable in their bodies, why some light workers are not comfortable in their bodies, why we're having a hard time in this reality. Okay, let's go there.
Great questions. Great. Yes. Great path. I say that because as you're saying that, I feel spirit start just coming in strong.
You're like, whoa!
Yeah, exactly. So a star seed is someone's spiritual path that is not of the human experience. And they're really, thank you, and Spirit's validating this before I even say it. They heard a call, kind of what Dolores Cannon was speaking about. There was a call put out. Thank you. Ooh, so strong. And we all
Dolores.
Yes. And they answered and they said, we will come. We will come help with a lot of people. People who are coming from the stars have a very strong connection to Earth, helping the Earth, supporting the Earth in what she's going through. And then we all have our focuses, some people with animals, some people working with humans, healing the water, healing the environment, crystals, like we all have our own specialties that we came here for. So these children now, they're not used to human bodies. This is a very dense energy. being in the human body, and they're so hypersensitive. So that's why with hems and seams and tags, people touching them, holding them, even going through a store on a full moon, they are like, you guys are crazy. I can't do this.
Yeah.
So how am I going to release this? I'm going to melt
people
down
have
on
children that once you get home, they shed their clothes.
Yes.
How many
My son goes straight to his jammies. He does. And you know what's really interesting too, on full moons, my son will ask me, he's like, I don't want to go out. I want to stay home because dad's going to do stuff. And then I look and I'm like, oh, it's a full moon today. I get it. Because they can feel everything people are releasing. It's a very powerful experience, but they're so sensitive to it. They don't want to be any part of it, and I don't blame them. So that's part of it. And so how do we integrate? How does that look in the human world, right? So you have these other worldly beings coming here to support us in our spiritual evolution. Well, what it looks like in 3D terms, Earth terms, is ADHD, ADD, sensory integration disorder, autism, behavioral, whatever. Really what it is children who are not letting the box confine them, and their spirit is making them release it. Because those who are kind of, I call it like my generation, I'm not a millennial, but I'm not.
Where do I fit?
No, they call us Zennials or something. But all of us, like I really feel like all of us collectively in this time that are helping with this shift, we are the transitioners. We were the ones who learned how to play their game, but now we know how to open up to spirit. And now these children,
the foundation is crumbling so that we can build a new one.
Exactly. And these children will not conform. They will only express and expand. That's it. That's what they know. That's what they do. That's what it's what their spirit knows. So these children are getting diagnosed these different labels. So my son, he got tested, ADHD, all that, sensory integration disorder, which was a lifesaver, by the way. But what I was trying to say before is that I literally had to tell my son, listen, as your parent, as your earth guide, I always call myself, I'm his earth guide. As your earth guide, you are here and you have to use words right now. So he wasn't speaking at age 3.
I remember that. We talked about that before.
Yeah, he wasn't speaking. And I said, so you have to understand, if you want to be understood by other human beings, you have to use words. Everything changed.
Telepathic beings don't want to use words.
Exactly.
To evolve to their level.
This is so much easier. Like, why energy is way easier. Like, why words are so inefficient.
You were already getting him everything he needed with the pictures he was sending you. So
yeah, exactly.
Words.
So it's really about being his earth guide. Like he's like, I don't want to do that. So he's like, I'll compromise. I'll do this much or whatever. I'll use my words for this. Fine, whatever. And so eventually he did start speaking. And, but it was funny when I got him tested, because his speech therapist said, I don't think anymore this has to do with speech therapy. I don't think he has the attention to focus on forming proper sentences. And so I went and got him tested. And then when I was going there for the results, a car hit me from behind when I was at a stoplight.
Oh no.
And Spirit showed me, they said, listen, this is to get your attention. This is all kinds of wrong. Do not put this on him. Mm-hmm. So I went to the thing and they said, they were like, we would suggest medicating him. We would suggest doing this. And I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're talking about. I really didn't think it would even be to the point of medication, but they were pushing it. And I was like, he's only 5. I can't do that to him.
Right. Well, and the classrooms push it too. They want kids that are going to sit there like little robots and not be the kid that, my youngest one, he would get in trouble for the silliest things. And it's like, he's like an 8-year-old boy.
Yes.
He's got a lot of energy.
Yes.
And you want him to sit in his classroom and he's not supposed to talk to his neighbor and he's not supposed to scribble on his paper while the teacher's talking and he's not supposed to do and he would get in trouble for the weirdest things and I could not get him out of that classroom for nothing, and I was like, this is just a bad match. This is a bad personality conflict or something. And he's going to get labeled as this troubled child when he's not a problem. He's just an 8-year-old boy, and
And that's what
I
it
went rounds and rounds with
like.
schools, with the schools, and you know, I can't wait for my kids to get out of school. Not that I want them to grow up, but you know, society makes us take them there, and I'm not able to homeschool. So,
and that's part of it. There are some souls that say, I will go through the public school system because that experience is crucial to them understanding the conditioned human Western experience.
yeah.
And then some souls that are like, no, you're going to have to pave a new path, and you're going to have to show people that, yes, we can homeschool, we can do this. So different souls are signing up for different things. Thank you. And Spirit's validating that. So just with these children, these labels, if we hear them, that's fine, but we can't give them too much gravity with our children because it will never serve them. We just have to understand that that's how they see the spiritual beings coming in. And then something that's really helpful I just feel like I need to say this, what really saved my son was when we found the occupational therapist, because his speech therapist was like, she put him in a desk and put the tray on so he was locked in. Didn't ask his permission. He's 3, but that's how he went. You have to respect him. And because of that, he melted down for an hour. And she saw it and she was like, wow, I have to admit, I thought it was a parenting problem. Now I see that there's something more going on here. And I think you guys should go see an occupational therapist. And meeting his occupational therapist changed our lives because she helped us realize how his mind and body works.
Did you want to do a shout out for the occupation therapist?
Yes, definitely. Her name was Danny. It was here I live in Salt Lake. And she was amazing because it was like she knew my son's brain better than I did. She knows that it's like all the scientific data of these spiritual beings being in a human body. She was like, he is not aware of his space, which is proprioceptive. He doesn't understand his balance in the human body, which is vestibular. He doesn't understand, not that he doesn't understand, but he craves input, stimulus. So when people see him roughhousing, they might think he's a troubled child. He's trying to feel his space. So tactile stimulation. And I was like, it's like you're describing Briar to the T. It's crazy. It was, and then she said she gave me exercises for him to help him get into his body and understand it better. And things did a 180, complete 180. So that's something I would recommend to any moms experiencing this, is definitely look up occupational therapists if you have the resources to do so. Otherwise, even check out books about sensory integration disorder, and it will teach you exercises to help your children get used to the human body.
I have a question for you, just for fun. This is just a little fun thing to see what you picked up on. You said that the occupational therapist's name was Danny?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. When you say that, in your mind's eye, what energy, like Doreen Virtue came up with the different realms that people could come from. Mm-hmm. That would be a great way for me to kind of get you to understand what I'm asking you.
A fairy.
When you said her name, I get this image. So what were you saying?
She had a lot of fairy energy with her, just seeing her face. But she was also very, like, almost like a guardian of children. Mm-hmm. Just the way she worked with Briar. So when I see guardians like that, it's usually angelic.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
I got very angelic, but not the angels we're used to. Not mm-hmm. the ones that we see in pictures or whatever. Mm-hmm. She has a unique light that comes in from the top, mm-hmm. and she's holding a staff. She has the wings, but her energy was so powerful. Mm-hmm. And obviously she's come here to help the children in this way. So very cool.
Help them learn how to use these human bodies. I mean, that's just testament to people who have been reincarnated. You have a memory of how this works.
Yeah, but the starseeds don't.
They don't. So it is, thank you, and Spirit's validating that. It is a very foreign feeling. And that's part of us as being earth guides to these children, is that we are here to protect them and guide them so that we can't put that stuff on there and they can implement what they need to. Doesn't mean they're not going to go through hard stuff. Like
no.
boys, they to understand certain things.
They're just highly sensitive beings. They're coming from a high vibration and then coming into a third dimensional reality with a heavy, dense physical body that they're not used to.
It's
And
clumsy.
so they're getting used to a lot of things.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of Briar's journey. And that all happened when we moved here to Utah. And that it just explains so much, because prior, which you know, Tracy, we used to own a bike shop, and Spirit said, you guys need to move right now. So we were like, okay. Yeah. So we moved and we come here, and then that was when all the therapy and everything started for Briar to get him comfortable in his body, his space. And also Spirit told me to go back to school. And because I went back to school and I graduated from Oregon State University.
Woo!
Yeah, I know, Oregon.
Although you did not come visit me.
I know. So I had kids on that trip. It was, if you ever road trip with kids under 5, may Spirit be with you and bless you. Because it is.
Now you understand why limos have those little windows that go. Like, well, next time let's rent one of those.
Oh my! And I learned that my youngest gets car sick, so poor thing.
Oh,
yeah,
that's not a good feeling.
So, which could be another thing too. Sometimes the physics of, and this is actually on a more serious note, the physics of the earth are sometimes very hard to integrate. Thank you, and Spirit's validating that, because I had the same thing.
Well, we got a whole lot of integrating to do as any age group, because our world is shifting into a new energy, a new atmosphere. The sun's changing, our atmosphere is changing, the globe itself is changing, which we like to call global warming, but it's just part of a natural process that it takes. And sure, our emissions are probably not helping the air quality, but the changes are part of,
because it's not just
part of our history.
Every planet in our solar system is warming up. Yeah. It's not just us. So I totally resonate with that. So I just, I feel like I'm kind of rambling here. Sorry. So
that's okay. We'll all watch you do that on video when we replay it. You'll ramble.
What was I saying? I can't even remember now. So anyway, so Spirit had me go back to school. And because Spirit, why I call myself a medium of light, is Spirit guides me to so many different situations. They have me working with ETs. They have me doing mediumship sessions, even acting as a, I don't know if people are familiar with the term psychopomp or a death midwife, where Spirit would bring people around me who were just crossing over and were confused as heck. They didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. So I would help them, and also their grieving families. And then they would also guide me with helping people with life purposes. Because that's a big thing too, is people aren't usually living their life purpose, and a sign of that is when you dread your job.
Yeah.
And when you're in, so they would just—
it's hard to get up in the morning, you're not doing your purpose.
Exactly. That's a good litmus test. And so with that though, when I went to school, I was able to connect I was studying human development and family sciences. And I was like, oh, they're describing Briar. So really, Briar was just the catalyst for a collective of what these children are going through, what they're experiencing, and how we can support them. And the moms, because holy cow, being a mom, like we're talking about the kids, being a mom in this time and energy as we're expanding is very much about learning how to have self-care, have a support network. Because what Spirit showed me, we are not meant to be in our beautiful little houses taking care of children.
What?
Yeah, exactly. It was meant to raise children as a collective village, what our ancestors used to do. That is how we're supposed to raise children. So when you hear these tragic stories of children being abused, there's a lot of charge in that. Once you can look past it and see the higher thing, you see disconnection. That is what's happening in our world right now, is we are very disconnected when we used to be a village, collectively connected, supporting each other, because we're not meant to do all this on our own. That's why self-care is so important, and understanding your child, how your child works and their needs. And when you get that going, it's so powerful. Because I'm like, Spirit,
do you think we'll move back into a tribal type existence, or?
That's what they show me. I mean, thank you, and they're validating it. So I trust it. They showed me a time when we used to walk amongst angels.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were right here. And we wore, so if any of you have an affinity to linens, it was a very simple.
That you're like bathing in yours.
It was a very simple cloth that we used to wear that was very natural, like linen, and everything was made of stone, what they showed me. And it was a communal village. And that is what they show me us going towards in whatever's happening next. Because again, I'm not like a predictor, or I'm not like, this is what it's going to be, but feeling the energy, I'm like, oh yeah, I see what they're showing me. Because I had to go through the things. There were times where I wanted to pull my hair out. I'm like, I can't do this. Like literally crying. I cannot handle my kids. I'm not doing this right. I'm not good enough. They're not getting what they need. I'm ruining them. I'm messing them up. And then that's a part, because all of us feel that way. We just don't tell each other because it's not the
I do. I'm like, I'm screwing up. Oh, especially when I have to deal with, I was just talking about this the other day, where my 15-year-old is an amazing manifester. Actually, all my kids are amazing manifestors. But when it comes to school, it's like the grades are just suffering. And I'm like, you need to get your grades up. Mm-hmm. Well, what do you use to get kids' grades up? Old school systems. You take away the thing that they love so that they'll do the thing they don't.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't want to be that parent, because that thing he loves is teaching him how to manifest.
Yeah.
And he's manifesting like crazy because he loves that thing over here. He loves what he's doing, not necessarily the object, but what it is. It's a car. And so he's fixing it up, and he's just manifesting like crazy around this car. It's like, if I take that away, then I'm one of those people that steal the light.
Yes.
And I'm trying to steal his light so he'll go over here and do this thing he hates. I need another system. So we're figuring it out too.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like his grades are just this amazing reflection of everything we talk about. All of his elective classes, woodworking, weightlifting, I forget what, filmmaking, A's. He loves them. And he's thriving in them.
And let me
history, English, you know, math.
History.
History isn't even accurate.
Yeah, like we do not resonate with history. No. History was always the worst subject for me.
And the more psychic and in tune you are, the more you know what you're reading is BS.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about having to take away something. The system that we have been taught is to manipulate the children to get them to do what you want.
Yeah.
Something that always helped me is one of my parenting mentors, Eliane Sainte Marie. She's amazing. She has a program called Parenting for Wholeness, I think it's called, or Clean Parenting. That's what it is. Sorry, Clean Parenting. And she said, truth connects, it doesn't convince. So when you connect with your child and what they're doing, then they hear you, receive you, and then you don't have to convince them or coerce them to do something for you. And then when you were talking about how grades are reflective, I have a secret. I dropped out of school at 8th grade. When I was in high school, I missed 180 days, which is a full school year of high school. And I still went on to be very successful in college. And the reason why I did is because I was going through so much, which plagues a lot of indigenous cultures, because I'm Alaska Native, is there was abuse and alcoholism in the home. And when you're going through that, nothing else matters when your heart isn't right, when your heart doesn't feel right. And I could never tell my teachers that. So I just put on the mask, did what I could to get through it. And it did not affect my studies at all. I still graduated on time. I missed a whole year of school, and some teachers hated me. And then other teachers, they were like, how are you so smart? How do you know this stuff? I'm like, I mean, I didn't know that. I don't know why I knew certain things, but I felt like I just was here for humanity. So I always understood humanity. I did a lot of studying before I came here.
Yeah.
But anyways, so what you're talking about, your boys, though, I totally get that. I understand it. And in our culture, when we would teach our young, we would repeat, integrate, and we never tested. It's not about testing. It's about when the soul's ready to hold on to it and adopt the new idea. And again, the theme, integrate.
Right.
They're ready to move on to the next thing. Isn't that how our spirit works? Once our spirit has moved through a lesson, we've integrated it, we get to move on from it finally. And that's why I feel like the Western way of testing and teaching is very outdated. And our kids know it. So they're like, grades, they don't matter. And they don't.
Well, and we're getting to the generation that's changing it now. So it's a slow process, but it is, you know, I see glimpses of it, and it makes me happy. My kids will probably all be out of school by the time it's incorporated, but it's got to change. I still going to have grandbabies that got to go through it.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You know, nieces and nephews that are going through it, and you know, it's just, yeah, it needs to shift, and there's such a much more positive way. And what another thing that's funny to me is, like, you know, we're living when I was a kid, to hear somebody reach 100 years old was like this amazing, crazy, that person's like ancient.
Yeah.
Well, now you hear it all the time, and people are surpassing that by years.
Yeah.
And so why do we have to know everything we're going to do for the rest of our lives by 18? If we're going to live to be 120, you know?
Yeah.
For the next 100 years, you need to know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Go figure it out when you barely even know who you are yet.
And that is so strong, like you talking about that, because a lot of it, what you're going to see is these children too, they want to travel. They need to move to certain centers around the earth, which they may or may not be aware of, to activate them and them activate it. So a lot
Let's
of them
talk about that. Activate. What do you mean? Let's evolve that for the audience.
So this might be a little different too, but this is something that resonates very strongly with me. And Spirit brought it up before we were doing the show. I kind of asked Spirit, like, what do you want me to talk about? This is another thing, is a lot of these new beings that are coming in, like the starseeds that we're talking about, thank you, Spirit's already validating it, are imprinted. So we don't have past lives. We will be regressed. We will give you a past life, but that past life was an imprint. Thank you. It's validating really strong. Spirit is.
Yeah, I'm going to concur also.
Yes.
Someone who does past life regressions. Not everybody is, they're imprinted on a lot of people.
And we will read back to you the life that we studied to help us get ready to come here. Mm-hmm. And one thing I will say, you know, Isabel. Mm-hmm. So Isabel, her and I met when I was training with Doreen and Kona. And Isabel was doing a past life reading. We were on the phone. And I have very vivid memory of me being a little girl. And I said, this was my last memory before I came here. And I was a little girl. I was in my home. It's somewhere in France during World War II. And they were coming to take me away. And me and my father wouldn't go. So they shot me and they shot him. And it was a repeating dream I would have. And I've always kind of pushed away from anything having to do with that, like German Holocaust. But that was the call that was put out that got me here. So I studied that, and that's why I remember that. But the funny thing is when she was trying to read me, the phone hung up. Right when she started trying to tell me about that life. And then so I was like, that's weird. So I call her back and we're talking. The phone hung up again, right when she started trying to talk about it again. And then the third time I talked to her and she's like, I really don't think. And I said, I don't think so either. I just wanted to say, because I felt like,
let's talk about something else.
When we explored it, it wasn't my life to go back and heal or experience it because it wasn't going to serve me.
Yeah.
It was just like something for me to learn. I don't even want to like download.
Like watching a movie so you could understand a situation, or
so I could understand part of the human experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it makes sense because anytime I would do regressions, I'd always shoot into the future. Never would go in the past. I would have rememberings, but it was always future stuff. I don't know what that was all about, but that's not really my specialty. That's more Tracie's, but just putting it out there.
Yeah. Past lives are one of the things I love to do. And yeah, for sure. There's so many that are imprinted. Usually talking with somebody first, I'll be able to tell if they're a starseed. Some people are starseeds that have had a few lifetimes on the earth realm and function a little bit better through it. I personally think I'm an old soul of the earth experience, and that's probably why I'm able to do that work and do
So
it
you can be the
differently.
liaison between people that are reincarnated numerous times here, having the human experience, and then the other beings coming in.
Yeah. I come from whatever realm you can move things
Yeah.
telepathically, just communicate telepathically, move objects. What is that, kinesthetics or whatever it is?
Yes. Telekinesis.
I have telekinesis, yes, where I'll have dreams all the time where I'm moving objects and teaching people how to levitate, and then I'll wake, and it's so real, and then I wake up and I'm like, dang it. So I know that I'm getting glimpses.
We wake up and we're like, oh, okay.
Oh, I can't actually levitate or fly. I have to get in the car. Dang it. And I've had people who remember coming from lifetimes where they could breathe under, like I've been to a water world. I've been shown a water world, and my energy body walked through this 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 field. Itd be like our air, but it's not like our water. It was a different texture, but I called it the water world, and they brought me there, and I walked through it, and they're functioning just fine in there, and I kept feeling like, can I breathe? Even though it's my energy body and my physical body is right here breathing.
Yeah.
But then I later would regress people, and they remember coming from a water world, and then they would have that memory in the earth realm, and they would get in water, and in their minds they're thinking, well, I can breathe. And you go, luckily I stopped myself before I inhaled underwater. But they remember those experiences as well as coming from a water world of those beings.
That's amazing.
And I mean, they're just amazing energy beings. We could go on about the ET thing for a while, because I have a few visits, a few interactions in altered states that, they blow me away. And then the bad thing about that is it makes you want more. It's like,
it opens
okay,
up.
when are you guys going to visit again? So, yeah.
It makes me wonder, like, hey, how do we bring it down here? How do we make that happen? Let's do this. Because
how do we have more of that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I really feel too, like, what Spirit keeps bringing up too, I want to tell other moms out there, or other caregivers, is when you were talking, what they kept showing me, when we do have integration of whatever's out there coming into our 3D reality here. And I didn't really get to elaborate, but when I had that egg-shaped craft come in.
Oh yeah, I was going to take you back to that. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Spirit was just bringing it right back, because it's important. These moms, and I don't mean to exclude dads, just whoever's the primary caregiver, because there's usually one in the family who owns the space of awakening for the children. So whoever that person is to those children, you need support, because your children are having these otherworldly experiences, and they chose you because they knew they could go to you and talk to you about this, and you're trying to help guide them and integrate. And I talk with other moms too, who really connect strongly with their children being star seeds, and having these other experiences where they're talking about how they can't get back into their body. These children are having thank you, Spirit's validating that, having night terrors.
Yeah, mine had those.
Yes, and I had one mom whose child was literally on the ceiling watching his body have a meltdown or a night terror, because he wasn't in his consciousness wasn't in his body. And so it was freaking out, and he couldn't get back in because the body had to calm down for him to get back to it. And I know so many parents, like you said, who have children who have night terrors in the middle of the night, and it's so scary for them. And for me, I had that with Briar. So I had to change his diet, teaching almost like spiritual hygiene, learning how to have that managing of your space, calling in the angels, learning to identify energies that are worth having around you and not, because he does have energies that come around him that are lower. He even had attachments that we had to clear out, which was intense. We had an attachment on him, and when we acknowledged it, the practitioner that got rid of it, my son started punching me. He did not like it. And whatever was attached to him that he agreed, it was part of his higher learning for spiritual wise. Didn't like it, but we got rid of it. And I really feel like I got my son back after that because everything changed. No more night terrors, none of that. It all changed.
Yeah.
So I do want to put that out there, though, that we as awakeners for our children, not awakeners, but activators, and awakening for the consciousness for our families, is we are going to see and experience crazy things. So one of my things was I saw this egg-shaped metallic drone, had no luminosity to it. That's kind of my litmus test for what's of spirit, light, and what isn't. And it was metallic with no glow. And it was vibrating my head, humming. And once I saw it, I called in Archangel Michael, but Archangel Michael couldn't clear it like he clears everything else. Because if I see a shadow, I say, Archangel Michael, please come in and clear it. And then it'll clear. I literally will see his orb come in, take it out, boom, validation, it's done. I did not see an orb. Archangel Michael didn't come in, but it knew that I saw it. It was almost like it was surprised that I saw it, and then it took off, went, and I could tell that the Earth 3D physics applied to it because it went into the hallway. It had momentum, and it had to slow down and then go forward. And then it went into my son's room, Briar, the oldest.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And so then I get up because it paralyzed me and I couldn't move. So I got up and then I was able to move, and I went and chased it in there, and I called in my grandmas because I call them my ancestors.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised Catholic, but I never resonated with Jesus in particular. Not saying Jesus isn't a very powerful leader and being that's serving us. It just wasn't what I was brought up with. Ancestors is what I know. And my grandmas, I felt their energy come, and they got my back. Like they were literally right behind me. And I checked Briar, and he was fine. And so I went back to bed, and then that thing came back again, probably like a month later. And then I learned this important tool. Thank you. And Spirit's validating that. So I just want to share a tool that I learned is when it came in, I held my hand up and I said my full name. I said my full name out loud, and I told it to leave. And so when I said my full name and I held my hand up, because that practitioner that helped my son, her name is Monica, she told me that there's power in your hands, like in, the energy, if you do any type of energy healing, that, but there's also for what you can actually move in your space. And so she said, say your full name, put it out there. So I did, and Spirit reminded me of it in that exact moment. That's what came to mind. And then it dematerialized, turned into a little orb, and shot out my window and left us alone. And ever since then, it was like I learned what I needed to learn from it, and then it stayed away.
Yeah.
So
you learn how powerful you are. And when we all start stepping into that,
exactly,
watch out, right?
And that's what I want to share with those caretakers of these kids, that when you start having these otherworldly experiences, not to be afraid. Look at it as like you are being trained and how to manage energy, because you are the leader right now for your children until they can fully step in and integrate into their experience as a human being. If that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome.
It does to me. So I do have a question for you.
Yes.
You were saying doing spiritual hygiene, teaching our children to do spiritual hygiene. And I know that there's going to be people watching this that don't know what that looks like.
Oh, sure.
So let's take through, because this is so important.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be lovely to catch the kids when they're little, because like if I tried to get my 13-year-old, 15-year-old, 19-year-old in here and say, let's do a little spiritual hygiene, they would all roll their eyes and walk straight out of here. So it's nice when they're little and you can start teaching them the spiritual hygiene, and then, they have that tool.
Exactly.
So take us through that.
So with spiritual hygiene, what I mean is managing your energetic space and what you hold in that space and what you allow in that space. So for some, it's imagining a cocoon of light around them. For some, it's calling in Jesus, or like I did my ancestors, calling in support when you need it. For some people, it's carrying around crystals, and I look down because I have all my beautiful little crystals behind me. And wearing the crystals on you that serve a certain purpose. I send my oldest to school with tourmaline and clear quartz. And it's really learning about clearing and calling in spirit, God, creator, angels, guides, whatever you believe in, whatever resonates with you and your child, to clear and release what connects. Because when you're empathic little sponges like our children are, or like you are probably, whoever's watching, is you have to know how to release it, because you keep holding it, holding it, and holding it. It will be so overwhelming. You'll have all these attachments that are siphoning off your energy, and you got to shut that down, because that doesn't serve you or anybody else. So learning how to cut, clear, send people's energy back to them. The little thing that I do is I say, dear God, creator, angels, Archangel Michael specifically, because he's kind of like the bouncer of the spiritual world, is please cut any cords that are attached to me that are not of pure love, pure light, or pure truth. And please send their energy back to them. Anything that's not of pure love and light, please transmute. And so it is. And this is a ritual. And I have my kids, they don't want to remember all those words. So I have learned how to do it in a way that's fun for them. Because when we came home from vacation one time, my little boy, he said, Mommy, I don't want to go downstairs. There's brown people. So we go down there, and he says he can see brown, like, spirits hanging out in our basement office. So I said, okay, remember, what do we do? So I stood there, right there with him. And I said, you can always call in Archangel Michael. So he did, which was one of the first words he learned how to say, by the way.
Yay.
And then he said, Expelliarmus. He loves Harry Potter. He said, Expelliarmus. And it wasn't about the word, it was the intention.
No, it's the intention, yeah.
And it cleared out. He went right in there, confidently turned the light on, and he played. And so that really, because kids will honor. If kids are scared, they remember they ain't going to hang out.
Hey, Harry Potter is a way to activate.
Yes.
I tell you.
Such a powerful activator.
Yeah.
I mean, when you read her stuff, you're like, she was straight up, like J.K. Rowling was straight up channeling.
Oh, yeah.
So many mirrors of like what she's saying, and that correlates with what we experience in this experience, the spiritual experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what I mean by spiritual hygiene. Does that kind of clear it up?
It does clear it up. That was too funny. I couldn't pass. So wonderful. Well, I'm going to, you know what? I have other questions that I could ask, but I think what we need to do is maybe do another video at another time so that these don't get too long to where people are like falling asleep on us, because we don't want sleepers. We want awakeners. So I'm going to thank you for the time that you spent with me today, and then we'll set up another time to maybe talk about portals.
Yes, that would be awesome. And if anybody has any questions, I do have my website, if I can mention it, if that's okay.
I want you to mention your website. How do they contact you? Where do they find you? Facebook friend you? Yes. Give them everything you got.
So my website is angelcompass.com. And I also have a Facebook page, which is also a link on my website. And so, like I said, I'm here, like I feel like my platform, my life purpose is I am here to validate what you're going through, because that's all I wanted. When I was moving through and like having all these experiences, someone to hear me, receive me, and provide guidance if needed, or just the validation. So that's definitely,
you know, I've been doing this for years, and validation is always welcome.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, definitely. So that's what I'm here for. And I'm just so grateful, Tracie, for you and how
I kind of want to call you Valene the Validator.
Well, the funny thing is I kind of have a radio show that's why I've been asking you about the radio show. So it's kind of on the DL, but Validations, it was going to be the title of it, because Val. And
nice. Like it.
We'll see. I don't know. We'll see.
Validations, right?
Yeah.
I like it.
But we'll see. It's like I said, it's still in the works. It's a little baby.
It's just a baby. Are you on air though?
No. It's
okay.
Something that, we're just working out like all the promo stuff and everything. So we'll see.
Well, hopefully when you're on the air, you'll get me that information. And then when you do that, I will add it to the link below on this video, because it will be on YouTube. So there will be a information space below the video, and I'll put Valene's website there and contact information on there as well as mine, because we both do this. So, hey.
Tracie has been a huge validator for my family.
Yeah.
She's helped me so much.
I love how spirit will bring, soul family back together, and it doesn't matter where you're at.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. We find each other and we just know.
Exactly.
Very true. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to go ahead and stop our video. Thank the audience. Come back again. We're going to do more of these. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. And my dogs are finally sleeping. That's like the whole time they've been messing around. Now they're finally sleeping. So let's go ahead and end the video. And we'll see you guys.
Thanks for their support too.
Yeah. Yes. They enjoyed the energy very much. So, all right, you guys, you have a good day, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye-bye.